So have you ever thought about how beauty is sometimes the thing that helps us have just enough space between us and everything that's happening around us? It reminds us that you know, life is bigger than just us. We see something beautiful and we can just sit in awe of it, right? Well, that is what Joanne Riley has taught me in my interview with her today. And I cannot wait to introduce you guys to Joanne and have you jump in. Now, Joanne is an interior designer, but at heart, she and I, when we discovered each other in our writers support group or accountability group, she and I realized that we do things that are very similar for the people that we serve. And so, as a psychologist doing therapy and coaching, I have a very specific thing that I'm helping people align with their authentic selves and step into this life of their dreams that they've always wanted, especially women in midlife. Well, she too has found that helping people design their interiors has a lot more to do energetically with helping them align with their authentic selves. And you're going to hear all about this in this. You're listening to Straight from the Psychologist's Mouth, a podcast that teaches women in midlife to unapologetically stop silencing their dreams and start designing the lives they want to live in. I'm your host, Dr. Natalie, and as a clinical psychologist of the last 2 decades and a twice-divorced single mother myself, I not only know how hard it can feel heading into midlife, I am living it right here with you. I have taken all the many failed attempts and lessons learned in my own life and combine it with my extensive clinical experience to give you the tools you need to make midlife the best time in your life. No joke. So let's get started. Let me introduce you to Joanne Riley. Joanne is the founder and lead designer of the Interior Edge. Her many years of design training, worldwide travel, and self-development are what make her practice successful. Joanne's career over the past 30 years has been designing custom interiors for some of the world's most fascinating people. Now, she has the distinct honor of debuting her first furniture line. She uses love and logistics to provide clients with professionalism and luxury beyond their expectation. She creates an experience that leaves clients understood, fulfilled, and owning beautiful interiors. In Joanne's words, the difference with her business is that love lives here. She believes that great interiors provide and inspire growth, security, and joy. So let's get started listening to this epic conversation with Joanne Riley.
Say it again. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you, Jo. Well, tell us about your story. Let's start there. Tell us about who Joanne is.
Oh my God. Isn't it ever changing? Thank God.
Thank God. I agree with that.
Well, I'll give you the simplified version. I was a struggling teenager, and luckily I got to go to college to ride horses, and then from some path I ended up graduating with a 4-year degree in equestrian studies, and of course it was really, you had to make a living at doing things that I didn't want to be a barn manager or any of that, and I actually was not all that good at riding, although I rose really high up in the ranks and everything. So long story short, I always loved to travel, and then basically my mother owned furniture stores, and I was really good at selling. And so we had furniture stores, and I was riding horses, working my way up. I wanted to work in Connecticut and ride in Connecticut with a coach. So I had to find a job. So I got a job in a high-end furniture store.
Mm-hmm.
This is back in the 80s. And in the 80s, things where money was crazy.
It was crazy, especially out east, and you're out east, right?
Yes, I'm in Connecticut. And especially if people don't know, like there were gold toilets that were literally
Yeah,
gold.
literally. Hmm.
And also, we did $250,000. Well, wait a second. That's the second next
Okay.
part. So I end up working at a furniture store, and the woman there who worked with me, a salesperson, she said, "You know, really, you're really good at this. You should go to design school." And my brother-in-law is moving up from New York City, and he's buying a design studio, and you could maybe get a job with him. So I was really good at selling furniture. So I had a little Mercedes. I drove my little Mercedes out there, and they couldn't believe it because it was a job for minimum wage. So they hired me right away because I had a nice car.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about being a designer, but I could sell furniture, and I knew a lot about furniture. And they worked for Macmillan and Parish Hadley, Sister Parish, and those are the top of the top in
Oh,
New York in the 80s. They were the top, and these guys worked directly for them. They were the best, and I just got lucky, and I was going to design school and work for them, and the rest is kind of history. In 1990, I worked for them until 1990, when literally one day the bottom fell out. We were writing $250,000 rooms, and then we were writing no business whatsoever. And they said, you know, really,
wow.
we can't pay you, so you could go on your own. I had a few little clients, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. Both my parents own their own companies. I was like, I don't know. That seems like a lot of work. And so they go, no, no, you could do it. And so I asked my clients, I was like, well, would you go? And they're all like, yeah, sure, why not? You know. And so that's how my company started. And basically, there was no place to go but up from 1990. It was
Sure.
a pretty harsh hit for everybody. But
Yeah.
because I was starting at a base, it didn't matter to me, and off
Hmm.
I went. It's been history ever since. It's been a great ride, a super great ride.
I love that. I love that. That's so cool. Like you just kind of, I don't know. I backed into it because I was selling furniture and I knew that. Like I love that those kinds of stories when alignment just shows up and we just take it instead of
Yes,
like
and
all
yeah,
this planning and then
I
feeling,
tried so hard to ride horses. I was in tears, and it's like, and I see a lot of young people who were like me. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was
yeah,
19. I had a 4-year degree, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I was happy to have that just so that it filled that time. And I always tell them, don't worry and just go with keep that, like the stuff they say that seems unrealistic. Like, just keep going with the things you like. It was true. I liked selling furniture. I liked furniture. I knew a lot about it. Sort of went that way, and then other people saw it in me. That you really have a great imagination because I can make up anything. Like, oh, this or
yeah,
that, and so yeah, just to go with that, and when you do it cognitively, I think it's harder. But I was just kind of just had no clue. I just like went along. Okay,
I
I'll
went
do this
along for
next,
the
and I'll do
ride.
yeah, exactly. And it seemed like the next right thing because I basically made a lot of money in those days doing the selling the furniture, and then I went to work for my bosses, and I made minimum wage. It was a big decision for me, but it was. I said to my boss, "Should I do it?" Like I'm asking him. He goes, "You probably will never be sorry," and that was probably close to 40 years ago, and I have never been sorry.
Oh,
It's a great industry. It's a great way to make a living. It's not for sissies. You got to be kind
yeah,
of tough, but it really is exciting and fun and multidimensional, and it kind of incorporates everything. Everything you do has design involved with it. Everything you see, no matter where
yeah,
you go. So it's a lot of fun.
yeah. Like just having worked in psychology as long as I have, I can tell you that people's spaces tell you a lot about what's happening internally. And I'm sure that you've seen versions of that.
Yes, I think
Hmm.
when we change, then our spaces have to change. So that's what I get to
Hmm.
see. I see like this is well, I always get a space where it's no longer who we are. That's why we need you.
Yeah, right.
And so
Exactly.
and then from there it's like, well, we don't really know who we are three-dimensionally in this space. So that's the energetics of it is just the fun part of it for me. It's always
Yeah.
been about that for me. It's been about like what's going to make your soul sing, and it's not necessarily the things that you see everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
and then actually sticking to your own soul is tough, instead of like what your mom thinks or what your sisters think or what your friends think. You
Yep.
always have to go back to yourself, and I think a good designer really does that. She encourages the people we encourage the clients that we have to just to go to their own self. And
Right.
it's not easy. They're big decisions. It's a lot of, anything you get is a lot of money. So they want to,
Oh, yeah.
maybe they want to get feedback, but we can't do it.
Hmm.
We got to
Hmm.
stick to ourselves.
Well, but like I feel like as a psychologist and as a coach, I kind of help people along in their journey. And it sounds like you're helping people along in their journey. Yeah, it's an investment. Of
Exactly.
course it is.
They
When you're
either have
reinventing
changed.
yourself, of course it is.
Yes, they either have changed before they got here, or they want to change, and this will facilitate their change.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, I remember the first time I had a widow. She was a young widow, and it was a really different experience because here she was inventing herself, um, on her own. Really, I think she had been married a long time. She
Yeah.
wasn't too old, and so she was maybe in her 50s. And it was a really great experience. It's like, yeah, let's test everything. And that's what's
Yeah.
great about being an independent interior designer. You have the entire world at your fingertips. And that is why I wanted to become a designer. Well, there was two reasons. One is I didn't want to work on weekends because
I
retail is
love that.
weekends, even though we do work on weekends sometimes, but it's our choice.
Hmm.
And the other one was that I wanted just the whole world to be open to me. When you're in a retail setting, you can still do decent design, but you have parameters on the lines that you get to choose or things. And I make up stuff out of my head, have it built,
Yeah.
have it made, and that's the juice of it. And that's what makes, even if you do one thing like that in your house, I think it's what really makes it like, oh wow, this is mine, and nobody else
This
has
is,
this.
and it's an outer expression of the inner you in many ways. Yeah.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
yes.
I found, I've told you this before, but I'll say this for my listeners too. I found, um, flipping furniture about 10, 15 years ago. Actually, the stuff that's behind me is like a 1980s cherry wood office set. It's huge. And
Wow.
I just, painted and kind of aged it. And those are things that I love to do. But I think that there's something really, well, I know there's something very dopaminergic about it. Like you do get a nice dopamine hit when you see the beginning, middle, and end of something. But taking something that doesn't look right, or it looks like it's been used or older or whatever, and making new is a pretty amazing journey. It just is.
Isn't it?
It's so reinforcing.
So great. I love that because I did that when I was young. We had I live in Connecticut. It has a nice area, and they would have a day where you would put your kind of big garbage, which people put like chairs out there and things that you
Yeah.
reupholster, and like it's not so much anymore. But we would find all kinds of stuff and have them custom done and embellished and everything. So, and I'm sure you notice that when you get something, or the reason that you really want that is because literally it speaks to you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
maybe we're not knowing that, but our energy is knowing that. It's like, I gotta have
Hmm.
that. I don't know, it looks like heck, but I'm gonna have that. And then you can make it into something. And what the energy it carries, I mean, you should really always kind of sort of clear away the old energy, even if it feels, all the stuff usually feels good if you actually bring it into your home. It feels good stuff.
Yeah.
And then you can do what you want with it, and think of the power of that. Think of like how much that
Yeah.
brings to your plate versus, maybe something, and I'm not being a slur on, other countries, but like something that's made quick and shipped and stressed and
Yep.
plastic and artificial. And think of that energetics compared to, that's like solid wood. You're not going to be buying that anymore.
No, you're not going to be buying this. Actually, I looked at buying things that I liked, and they were, like you said, they're thousands and thousands of dollars. And I'm like, well, shoot,
Either
I can
that,
do
or
that. I
they're
like the
just, or that you
bones
don't
of
even
some of these
want
other
them.
ones. I just have to,
Right.
yeah. Hmm.
Right, right. Either they're so expensive, or they're just not even what you want. You don't want to have that
Hmm.
feeling in your house. You want to have a
No,
different flavor. So yeah, that's a
totally.
whole other world in and of itself, isn't it? Things that we
It
can.
totally is.
Travel has been the biggest inspiration. I loved to travel when I was 13. My father made some sort of a deal with me. If I got good grades or something, I could go on this ski trip. Now, here I was a kid. We grew up in just outside of Queens, New York, and my parents bought 144 acres in Western Massachusetts. And
Oh, wow.
that culture shock. And I was like a fish out of water. I had purple platform shoes in the dirt, and I was like, "How do you walk here?" and all that. So I said, well, if you get good grades or something, then you could go on this trip to skiing to Switzerland. Now, I never skied in my life. So I went for like one ski lesson and off to Europe I went, which is the way to do it, because it was really easy to learn. It had good snow. They had great instructors. It was really fun.
Oh, well, there you go. Did not know this, but that makes
But
sense. I mean, they have the Alps. Come on.
so that started my love of travel. So
Okay.
right then I was like, this is the bomb. I'm just always going to do this. So I've been really, really lucky to travel a lot up until COVID, and now I have to get my
Yeah.
traveling shoes on again.
What inspired you to start helping women in, I ask women in midlife, but just women in general in your line of business to help empower themselves?
Well, if you kind of look at the big picture, my mother was quite empowered for her era.
Mm-hmm.
And she was probably like 36 when she got pregnant with her sixth child, my youngest sister. And she was
Wow.
teaching at, she could have been 38, but I think 36 actually. And she was teaching at a school called Chaminade. And it's a Catholic school in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And they let her go when she started to show. Yes.
Ew. Ugh.
So, so she, that was really like she was there. My parents were very Catholic. They were very much in this, in the system and all of that. And like it was a game changer. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say our lives really changed after that, because then they moved to like the country, and she got her own stores. They were her stores. My father was a CPA. He had his own company. These were
Yeah.
her stores, and she was very successful entrepreneur. And so I think, not that I actually never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought it looked like way too much work. However, I have the gene of wanting to do what I want to do. So I don't know. I really didn't work that much for other people generally, except for in the family businesses and then a few jobs. But I'm pretty much an entrepreneur in mind. And so I had a good role models as far as women.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started out in having my own company in 1990, I joined a group, a networking group, and there were women of my age at the time, and we just banded together, and we all, got successful together. We just all grew
Mm-hmm.
together. And so that it was just a natural, I think. And I think that when you go around, like we didn't think so much, I don't think in those days. I wasn't anyway. I wasn't as cognitively like, oh, women empowerment and stuff, because I had a lot of freedom, and I had a
Yeah.
lot and truthfully privilege. And so the other people around me were smart. Education was huge in my family. It still is. I
Yeah.
believe in education, and so everybody around me was being educated, and everybody around me was being empowered. And then when we did other things, when we supported other younger women and younger entrepreneurs, that all the education and all that came with it. And it was a very
Sure.
natural process. I mean, we did have some really good role models that were famous women that were, really out there and being bold and doing things. So I think it was a natural progression. And I have four sisters and one brother, and so it's natural to be around a lot of women and to
Yeah.
empower each other, and we still do. Even though we live in all different places, we empower each other to be better people. And I think in business, especially as a designer, there's a lot of women in design, so
Mm-hmm.
it becomes natural to help other women and younger women,
Yeah.
and they hire me.
Look at you. Look at you. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
that, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, basically, that's who hires me. I have worked for some single men, but not as many as single women, and of course, couples and families. A lot of couples
yeah.
and families,
Yeah.
because it's trickier to design when you have a lot of people. It's like a negotiation and everything. So
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that, but that's very
yeah,
accurate. That's why I don't like to do family therapy.
it's exactly like that. Although I really enjoy it, and it was so interesting. It used to. I think people now are more used to. I don't know if it's compromise or just agreeing with each other. in certain ways, or they, all right, I'll let you have that and you can have that. But I always used to
Yeah.
see two camps. There was either the ones like, okay, this is his room to do, this is her room to do. So everybody had their own little kind of rooms that they got to design more than the other person.
Sure.
Or or they would divide it in the one room, like, okay, this is a deal breaker, and so the one person would, there would be that one deal breaker, and the other person could just about get all the rest of the stuff, because that one person, they only believed in that. So
Yeah.
it was so it's quite an interesting dynamic, and quite different than and certainly when I started out in the 90s, a lot of women did make all the decisions in the home, and the men were just
Yeah.
like, yeah, whatever. But not now.
Not now.
No.
No, no, I can see how that's shifted over time. I mean, and
Yes,
the
it's
statistics tell
great.
us that they're getting better. Men are getting better in those heteronormative families, stepping up and being a parent 50-50. It's not quite yet there, but the millennials are doing better than the rest of us
Yes,
as far as how the
yes.
generations have gone.
And some of the
Mm-hmm.
men care much more. They're the leaders. Like, I work for them kind of, and the woman just watches, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas it was never that way in the 90s.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's
It's fun.
interesting.
It's really fun.
Once you've been in the biz long enough, right? Then you can see all these trends.
Definitely, definitely. And it's super exciting. I mean, just as times change and how people are in their interiors and what they want, and how, like, I've just been noticing lately, like, I really have to start to educate again, because we all got like a little lazy, including me, about educating people, like, because everybody wants the sort of Amazon, okay, let's get it tomorrow. That's not good design.
Ah,
I can tell you that.
yeah.
I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
might happen on some stuff that you can get right away. It might. I'm not saying it's impossible, but generally speaking, the process and thinking about it and finding the right things are not necessarily something that's going to come out of the box like Mary Poppins tomorrow.
No, no,
So,
I suppose
I
not.
and I've been thinking about that, because we're all complaining about it. As designers, we're like complaining, but what are we doing? We have to start re-educate back again, because we used to talk more about that, and then all of us started to get things more instantly, so we forgot about talking about it, and we just tried to do it. And then I was like, you know what? We can't. We're just all making ourselves crazy. It doesn't work that
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's educate and say, this is, you have to make your choices. It's like anything in life.
Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, next question. Let's see. What are some common challenges that you are helping women in midlife face right now?
Gosh, right now,
Mm-hmm.
midlife. Which is midlife? Is that sort of 50s or
I think it's
40s, 50s,
personally, I
60s?
say 40s, 50s is kind of traditional. I say it's anywhere from 35 to 65. It's kind of when we're in the meat of,
Okay.
adulting, taking care of our families on both
Okay.
ends,
I
that
would.
kind of thing.
I think I'm gonna categorize like below 60s and then
Okay.
above 60s, because I work for people it's in their 90s, which I never thought
That's
that I
amazing.
would.
Yeah.
I know. I have like the first client I ever had, and all the rest of them, and we all aged magically, and so, but women
How
in
did this
their,
happen?
I know it. Women in their, I don't have too many in their 30s, but I have a lot of people that work for me that are in their 30s. But I have a lot of clients in 40s and 50s, and they the idea of COVID changed all of us, as no surprise there,
Yeah.
um, and how we are going to advance ourselves with the energetic changes that have gone on in the world, with what we expect of the world, with how we want to live differently. I don't know about you, but we were like, run as fast as you can, work as hard as you can. Okay, then you die. It's like everything changed.
Yep.
So I think the challenges now are sticking with that, and not
Right.
sort of, even the younger generation they want to be overachievers. They want to, like, what was that ad? Cook it up in the pan, have the bacon. The women can do everything.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I noticed that, and I look at them, because I'm well in my 60s, and when you look at me, you go, oh God, you got, slow down. There's plenty of time.
Yeah.
But when I was
Yep.
there, I was like, oh yeah, what do I do next? What can I do next? How can I do more? And I think more and more of them are realizing, like, yeah, no, it's not about more. It's about the quality And how can we reset ourselves all the time so that we're not following just along blindly with society telling us that the more we work, we're more valued, or the more we look a certain way, or whatever it is. And that
Yep.
carries over. Fashion and interior design are very, very linked. And so now, anything goes in fashion and anything goes in interiors. It used to be like really there was kind of stricter styles, but what it was we didn't have as much available all the time. So if the powers
Yeah.
that be said, red is in this year, then you see a lot of red. So you could you have to use the red or whatever. But now we have everything all the time. So what are we going to choose? And
That's
how are
right.
we how are we going to choose carefully? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's super easy. Even some of my very well educated and in every way, including design clients, uh, once in a while go, oh, I think I'll get that. They're looking online at night or something. They're like, oh, let me get that ottoman. And then they're like, oh, what did I do that? It's like, oh, I don't want to send it back. It's a hassle, but I really don't need that ottoman. It's like weird,
Yeah.
So I think being really intentional and taking your time to design it and think about it. We provide renderings for everything. Any room you do, you get a rendering. And even online, you could go on the websites and you could, if you want to buy a sofa, you could just put it in your room, or if you want to paint your walls, the apps are all online. So you can see everything ahead of time. You can think about it ahead of time. And you really can be very intentional. And you just have to be careful not to sort of have like a moment of like, oh, I'll just do this, and give
Yep.
up. You
Yep.
got to just stick with it. So I think maybe that's my answer. Intentionality. I think that people uh, really are trying to just stick more to their soul and hear their souls. It's kind of hard with all the chatter.
It is hard. And what I also heard though is discernment. Like I think it's a
Mm.
combination, right? Setting
Oh,
those
I love that
intentions
word.
is
Yes.
wholly important. But what you're talking about is like the baby boomers were that first generation of women that could do anything that they wanted, right? Title IX, all those things went through. But the Gen X group, which is kind of in this 40 to 50s, 60s range, uh, unfortunately got the message because you can do anything, do everything. And
Right.
that's just not sustainable. It's
Yes.
just not sustainable at all. And so we're worn out. Like we're in our 40s and 50s, feeling like we're in our 80s and 90s. I feel like some days I wake up like I'm an old lady because we bit off way more than we can chew. And so it's about discernment. It's about kind of taking a
Well
step back
said. Well
and
said. Yes, I
making
find
those
that.
choices. Yeah.
And then
No, I love that.
And then I think once you turn 60, all hell breaks loose. You get to do whatever you want. And I think across the board, women, I've noticed there's something that switches. I don't really believe in numbers that much, but that you realize like, wow, this is it. In the old days, 60 was old, by the way. Now I don't even think, nobody really thinks 60 is that
Nobody
old.
does.
And,
Uh-uh.
but so you're like, oh, I'm there. This is it. Like, you better like your life, and I
Exactly.
think that is really true. And that frees up a lot in your home. And like you
Mm-hmm.
do not have to look like anyone else or be like, I think there's a lot of freedom in getting older. So that's the good news.
How can women in midlife begin to cultivate a stronger sense of self-worth and self-confidence, do you think?
Um, well, this will sound crazy. Go out and hug a tree and sit on the ground and and put your feet on the ground and really just go back to nature. That's how you can do
Mm-hmm.
it. And
Mm-hmm.
then go inside your house and redecorate it. No, and then, you have to get to your soul. And there's just
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned before, there's just a lot of chatter. And how we're going to do that is I do think nature is going to win out on all this, as much as we
Yeah.
are trying to help mother nature. I think we have to, like, that's
Yeah.
part of my practice, and that's important. And having plants in your house, having beauty, I think beauty is essential, and beauty
Mm-hmm.
is not what they're selling you. It could be for
Mm-mm.
you if you want to have that as your beauty, that's fine. Beauty is whatever makes your heart go,
Yep.
and when you go like that, that's what you should buy, and every single thing. I think.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
like that.
everything, every single thing, kind of in a weird way. I don't know her all that much, but when that Marie Kondo was popular, I do like that idea. Like, does it bring you joy? And
Yes.
I find things like I energetically tune into my clients. So I often find things that maybe I find them in weird shops or something, like a lot of glass pieces and stuff like that'll bring them joy. And that's how when you travel and you should buy things, especially on good trips. First of all, energetically, it brings you back to that place. How many times are you going to get to do this with your daughter now? You know, life changes,
Hmm.
things happen, and so you could go, you get items and you can put them on shelves or hang on the wall. I like to buy art. I love art, and then I have that, and then energetically, it brings me to that trip other time, whether I know it or not. It's not cognitive for me, but
Hmm.
it's very energetically aligned. All my spaces. The first thing I do when I move is hang my art, even if I have to rehang it later. I think that it dictates the feelings, and everything is about feeling. We just want to feel good. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, what was the question?
The question is how to cultivate a stronger sense of self-worth and self-confidence. I love where you went
Okay.
with that though.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so pretty
Yeah.
good. Get back to nature, and then self-conscious surround. This is a really big one. And this is probably your wheelhouse, but surround yourself with people that believe in you, that support you, and
Totally.
are not negative Nancy's. The bliss. My friends call me the bliss bunny. Surround yourself with bliss buddies that find the good in things, that find the good in
Yeah.
anything, and it's totally just generated. And I don't think it means that you're dumb or you have your head in the sand. I think like you have to find that in life, and and put on the rose colored glasses for a second and go energetically above stuff, and decide and intentionally decide who your friends are and which people in your family that are good for you to be around and which aren't. And
Yeah.
it's those are hard choices. It's not always easy. How do we surround ourselves with enough? Sometimes if you have that and it has to be in your life, then how do you balance that? Because that can easily take over. How can I
Hmm.
surround myself with enough other good vibrational people that are growing and changing and looking at things more spiritually? And,
Yeah.
I have a spiritual coach. I've had many coaches over the years, but I love the spiritual one the best because I get to look at everything energetically. And sometimes it does make me feel like petty, but I thought this is such an easier way to live. If you could just go above it and go, they're feeling the fear, I'm feeling the fear, or whatever feeling it is.
Yeah.
And then everything is kind of easy. It really does work out.
Right.
And being in that moment is hard, but when you have all that support system, then you've got half a chance of living so much of a better life,
So much,
easier.
so much. I love that you're the bliss bunny. You totally are a bliss bunny. I can so see that because connection is vital. I mean, it's literally what we're wired to do is to be in community with one another. And I think that we've been given this sense of like you have to bring a false version of yourself, like the put together version of yourself needs to come, but the kind of community that you're talking about is a place where it's safe to be you, which means sometimes we just break down and are like, whoo, it was a week, let me just say it was a week, and
Oh
you
my
need
God.
your people to lift you back up.
I have a really, really good friend. I have like 10 best friends, but she's one of my best friends. And she the other day she said, I just like feel like I'd like to go to the institute. I was like, me too. I mean, we were both thinking the same thing. Like you just need, and it's funny because she's a therapist also, and you just need people that are like that get like that really doesn't like that could be so taken out of context if you say it to the wrong
Totally.
person. But for us, it was like
Exactly.
we need a little self-care to break, but we say we want to go to the institute, and that's what you need. And then the
Mm-hmm.
second we were both laughing so hard when we both were like almost said it at the same moment, and we were laughing, and then you can turn the kaleidoscope and you can say, oh, we need self-care, like let's go for a walk,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is. But and taking the time for yourself, this is one thing I don't have any regrets really. But if I was going to have one thing I changed and go back in my life, I would take better care of my grandfather told me this too. Actually, I've forgotten that I would take better care of myself. And at every moment
Yeah.
think, is this good for me? As
Yep.
opposed to think, I always, I think women are trained to think like, is this good for the family? Is this good for the this? Is this good for the that? But I think if you could put yourself top on the list, and it sounds ridiculous,
No,
but
it
I
doesn't.
think,
It's
I
exactly
think,
what I preach. Yeah. If you can
yes,
put
I
yourself
think
there.
if you can do that, then and wholeheartedly, then you can, then everything else falls into place. Everybody
That's
else has a
exactly right.
happier life because
Hmm.
you are energetically aligned and you're the leader. We are in so many ways the leader, even when we don't
Hmm.
look like the leader or think. I never thought of myself as a leader until later in life. I'm like, yes, I am the leader. I own the company. Oh no.
Oh shoot. I am the boss. When did this happen?
Say that almost every day. And I try to give the job away often, but nobody takes it.
No, I love this because community is key. And I do think it's an interesting, I mean, get yourself grounded back in nature, make sure to get in alignment with what your needs are in this world. That's important too. But I think one of the vehicles that we do as women, especially, is that we do this best is when we're in community with one another,
Yes,
when we can
I
check
agree.
ourselves, catch ourselves, sometimes even be the hero or the heroine for somebody some of the time. That feels good too,
Oh,
especially when your life
I
feels out
love
of
that idea.
control.
Yes, giving back. I'm a big meditator, and the kind of meditation I do, they have a healing thing. It's really cutting edge. It's really exciting. And I
Oh, I
st-
love.
and sometimes I stay. It's Dr. Joe Dispenza, and the group is called
Ah,
Cultivate.
yes,
And
yes.
so I sometimes I stay for those, and I always get more than I give. It's about healing other people, but I always
Hmm.
walk away like so full. I forgot that anytime you give, you get
You
anytime.
get always.
And you forget that sometimes when you're like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that, and
Yep.
then if you go, well, I'm just going to take the other, like about 6 weeks ago, I said I'm just going to take the time to do it, because if I don't, I just don't do it.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my God, this is so, it fills me up so much that I have more time for everything. So that is
Yep.
so true. I love that one. That's good. And
Yeah.
all these things, by the way, I'll put them back to interiors, are applicable to your interiors.
Yes.
Having that right chair, having your space on the sectional that's yours and yours only, is crucial. Is crucial
Yeah.
to uh, filling back up. Your home should be sacred in the way that it's yours, and there's public spaces and private spaces, and not so, we're not so defined as we used to be. We used to have actually different rooms for that, but you still have to make the sanctuary. Like, it could just be, actually, when I was a little kid, my sanctuary was inside the closet because I was one of six.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
You
moved
had to
out
find
to this
small
old
spaces.
house. I was little. It was a long closet, and I could fit right in there. And I still like to live in small spaces, beautiful spaces, but smaller jewel boxes. And everybody likes to live in something different, but you have to
Yeah.
make sure you carve out that. And it could be one, or you could have more than one, hopefully, space. Maybe inside your bedroom you have a space, and also in public spaces that really is where your soul just rests, because that's another thing. Rest, that's such a big one in life, isn't it? We don't get enough of that.
Yeah.
And I think I think I do like that about this day and age. It's like there's a lot of casual spaces, so people can sort of lounge about and
Yep.
do things, and make sure that you have the quiet spaces as well as the spaces where you're playing games and doing community and family things. But then there has to be quiet spaces as well, even if they're just at night. Those same spaces become quiet.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, all that self care right inside your home. Oh, and we're doing such exciting things with a lot of people have rooms that they're using as meditation rooms. They have
Meditation rooms.
yoga. Yes,
Yeah.
meditation, yoga. Sometimes they have weights and things in it. If you just have one room. Some of my clients that have big homes, we have complete gyms. We have like spa rooms. We have
Totally.
saunas and steam rooms and uh, salt rooms. Oh my God, I love
I
all
love
that
it
stuff.
though. I
Yes,
love
I
that
love all
that
that stuff.
design is wrapping itself into I mean, like sacred space, right? Like having spaces in our home that are our energy generators and self-care
Curators.
spaces. That's beautiful to know.
Yes,
Hmm.
we have to.
For those of us who live on a dime, it ends up being like a chair, but hey,
It
whatever
doesn't
works.
matter.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter. Seriously. And it doesn't matter about the money, because I have clients that have plenty of money that never actually had that space for themselves. They design their houses for other people. And then, you get to a place in life, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You're
No.
like, what about me? And why am I unfulfilled? And part of it is like, they never really took care of themselves. They were so busy trying to do other stuff that it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, just my whole inner self could be solved by having like this one chair, or
It's
eating
amazing.
plants with it, and yeah, and beauty. I mean, everything has to be beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we might be getting back to that. Like we have less, but we have beautiful things. And
Hmm.
that is why I love Europe. I'm a big fan of France. My sister lives there. I've gone there forever. And they could have a piece of land this big, but it's just beautiful. It's got all the flowers and everything. And that's how you think of your house. If you don't have either a lot of space or a lot of money, it doesn't matter. You could go outside and get one of those twigs when you're walking home, get a twig and make a plant out of it. Like some of those
Yeah.
like came from twigs. And so
Oh my gosh.
that's what you have to do. You have to do what feeds your soul, and it's attainable at any
Hmm.
level.
How does your service, how does doing interior design, do you think, help women in midlife embrace their unique strengths and use those to achieve their goals and
I
creating a
think
fulfilling
many of
life?
the women that have not had a designer before, which I don't have too many anymore, but I used to have a lot, because then they use me again and again. But I think that I can, when you clear away the stuff and you get to, like, for my job is to get to their soul and to get to, like, who are they energetically and where are they going. I mean, I don't talk like this in the meetings. It wouldn't be appropriate for an interior designer, but this is the information I get, believe
Yeah.
me. And so I think it's the first time a lot of times that they're actually really heard for themselves. And
That's
so
interesting.
yeah, yeah, like especially if they're getting divorced, it's like you're crazy when you get divorced. I'm divorced. I
Ooh.
was like,
I've been divorced twice.
and
I know how that goes. It's
yes,
not
and
nice.
so and those when they're planning to go ahead, how do you do that? You're like broken, but you're not. And so that's the part of an outside design. A good designer can see like, oh, they need this so they can decide what they're going to be. So so clearing the path, just and
Yep.
clearing the path, listening, um, opening your mind. Of course, you can do it virtually on a million different platforms, or you could do it old school and tear things out of magazines like we did in the old days. Or you could make a board on House or on what's the other one? Anyway, whatever, and and get all those ideas, and they could be so diverse and so incongruous, and they could be like whatever. But then if you tell me like, I like the color of this, I don't really don't like this room, but I love the feeling of it.
Hmm.
All that you're expanding your horizons, which expands exponentially what you're going to do and whatever it is that you're going to do. We all
Yep.
live in a place, but you're going to do something different, and your home could help be your vehicle to that, or it could hold you back if like you get, I don't know, things that don't, I was going to say black, but I like black furniture. You could get furniture that just keeps you stuck, and maybe you bought it or you have it. This does happen. You inherit like this old monstrous sofa that was your grandmother's, and it's really beautiful, but it just has like all this energy that keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
So what do you
Yeah.
do about that? And often we can find different places to put it and we can honor it and stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be in your main space. And so those are the kinds of things that you really have to mine and open up and just clear away, and then get yourself tons and tons and tons of ideas. Leave yourself open, and then it's like someone clever can just see what are the similarities or the differences. Or often for me, I take that information and then it takes me to a different place. I'm like, oh. And so the
Yeah.
process itself is so healing and so exciting and
Carl,
so
you do the
inviting.
same, you do the same thing I do. You just use a different medium. Like that's
Absolutely.
literally what I do, right?
Absolutely.
It's just
Yeah.
with words and
Because I think
thoughts
I
and
think we
yes,
don't believe in
emotions.
ourselves. Like I do see
Mm.
I love people. I just love them. Even when they're mean to me, I love them. because I know they're just like their sofa's late or something. And
You
so,
have a very compassionate streak to you, very
yes, you
much.
have to, yes, you just have to love them and see their beauty. And I don't think a lot of that's going around. So
No,
if you
not
have
enough.
someone who can do that and then translate that into your interior, so you're living in this good energy, whew, the world's your oyster. And that's probably why I have the same first client I ever had since I was 30 years old.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Oh, I love
Oh,
this.
fun.
Yep. Joanne, we're sisters. We're using different mediums, but we're doing the same work in the world. I promise you. That's exact because I often will even say to clients that come in, like, I feel like sometimes you're just gonna come in and we're gonna throw all this junk on the floor. We're just gonna all of your life is just
That's
right here in
exactly
front
what
of
we do.
us.
We literally do it.
Yes. Yes.
I have
And then
Rorschach tests
you
with
and I are
fabrics.
gonna organize that away. And some things will get organized away and some will get tossed. Some will you'll let go, they don't serve you anymore.
I
But
love
it will be you in control of where all that goes instead of it being in control of you because it's just overwhelming.
I had these clients, they bought a place in Manhattan and they were probably in their 50s and they was their second or third marriage for each. And they were kind of like newlyweds. I'm not sure if they were married quite yet, but whatever. And I brought like bags of fabrics, all different kind of fabrics, and we went through these fabrics, and it's so hard not to want to intellectualize or to think I'm actually going to sell it to you or something. I'm like, this is a Rorschach test because I didn't know them. They usually a lot of people I know or I know someone they know. I didn't know them at all, and we did this. We came to one fabric that they both loved and we designed that entire New York City apartment around this way. It was only one pillow in the whole thing, but the whole feeling of it, we did custom rugs and all kinds of things was from that one pillow. And I think that that really explains it pretty well. You find a
Yeah, it
common
does.
ground of something that you like everybody's passionate about. And then we could change it and it could transform. And that's exactly what you do, right? There's something that
Yeah,
someone has some even in their darkest day, there's something that they like. And then
that's
from
right.
there you can expand on that. So it's a very exciting process. I love being an interior designer. So I always consider myself so lucky to have the gift, really.
What advice would you give a woman in midlife who feels like they're stuck and they're not sure where to start and, need to start loving themselves probably a little bit more, but they just don't even know where to begin with it all?
I say move a muscle, change a thought. Go for a walk.
Go for a walk? Yeah,
Yeah.
I like it.
First, first,
Move a muscle,
first thing.
change a thought. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Yep. That's the first thing. And then find anything beautiful and put it in your home. Whether
Okay.
plants actually. I'm a big animal person, but I don't have an animal right now, which is very first time in my life I don't have an animal. So having an animal is great if you're in a position to do that. Any a dog or a cat or whatever, they're wonderful to have in your home. They change everything about your home. Your home is happier because you have them. I don't have that, so I started to get into plants, and you could talk to your plant. So you go for a walk, you have something you come back to in your home that's beautiful. Even if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
a view or whatever, put a painting
Mm-hmm.
over the window. When I lived in New York, we had a brick wall out one window. And so we put a faux painting over that. And, just find beauty. Because when you find beauty, it tickles your brain and you can change. And it's we can change ourselves at any given moment. I often have to remind myself of this when I want to be upset about something. I go, well, you could choose. You could go ahead down that road, but you know where it ends you. Or you could be depressed about it. But depression is just the thought, or you know better than me, but just the thought that you keep
Yeah.
thinking that it just is looping. So you got to get out of the loop. So that's why moving is good. That's why seeing beautiful things. And that's why, like, if you can't get out that much, it's very important to have beautiful things in your home and they could be just this big. I have these little erasers
Yeah.
that my nephew gave me that are little animals. They make me happy. They're like little
Yeah.
tiny animals. They're adorable. So, I think at any moment you can do that. And then it gives you just a gap so that you can go, oh, I can choose something different. I can see it. And
Oh, so see,
just
what
the
I would
gap.
call the gap is like getting in your observer self. You're a meditator, so you know kind of that concept of, being in
Absolutely.
that absolute awareness space. You're not the person,
Yeah.
but you're the awareness of that person. And I think that's interesting that beauty does that too. That gives you just that little bit of a shift,
Because
from
it's hard.
being in
But
your life to observing your life.
right.
That's
Here you are
lovely.
depressed. You go, oh, let me be the observer. And then you're like, oh, F everybody. I don't want to be the observer. you know? But if you see something beautiful, then the space is there and you start to laugh at yourself. I usually laugh at myself.
Yeah.
And oh, that's another thing. Take stand-up comedy class. I took stand-up comedy class. Best
Really?
experience ever.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, that's so cool. I didn't even know it was a class. Like, I've
It's
often thought though about doing an open mic night because I've got a lot in me, let me say.
I'll tell you this. There's structure. There was so much to learn about it. And
Wow.
I actually laugh all the time. I make people laugh, but I was not funny as a stand-up comic. I don't know why it didn't. I
Who
couldn't
knew?
translate it. However, but laughing is everything, isn't it? I mean, if you don't have a sense of humor, you definitely can't be an interior designer, and you probably can't be a therapist either.
No, you probably shouldn't be because it's such a beautiful way to release that energy. There is
Yes,
such healing
yes,
power to laughter.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And that's the whole. We could have a whole show on that. I have a
No,
little Google.
totally.
I have a little Google Home where most people have Alexa, and I say, tell me a joke," and they're just like stupid jokes, but I always laugh if I'm like I need a pattern interrupt. There I go. Just
There you
tell me
go.
a joke. Tell me a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Make me look at something pretty. Have a beautiful window,
Mm-hmm.
and often people do need to move from where they are. A lot of people hire me especially over the years, to assess whether the next place they want to buy is going to be a good place for them, and that has to do with really, are we going to be able to a lot of my clients have the means to really redo things, and are we going to be able to make this feel like how we want it to feel, because everything's
Yeah.
about how you feel.
It's always about how you feel.
Those are our barometers, but we
Mm-hmm.
forgot that. I think everybody got
Mm-hmm.
taught you have to be in your head. We could
Well,
just
we were
leave our heads
bamboozled. We were
behind.
told, we were told we're thinking beings, right? We're at the top of the food chain, and this big brain of ours is what makes us what we are. But it's actually the reverse. We're feeling beings that now have evolved to think. It's not that we're thinking beings that have this other extra thing that we do called feeling. No, feeling is really what is our ultimate barometer or
Guidepost.
compass
Yes,
guidepost.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So just think, if you have a beautiful interior, then
Mm-hmm.
you already, your heart is more open, your nervous system is more calm. You already have a step up.
Totally. I absolutely agree. All right, Joanne, how do my listeners find you? Where should I send them if they want to know more about you?
Um, InteriorEdge.com is our website. Joanne Riley, ASID, or Joanne Riley, interior designer, they all come up, and
They
we will
all come
post.
up,
Yeah,
and
we
I'll
will
put
post.
all those links. Yes, of course, in
Yes,
the notes. I'll put all those links. Well,
that'll be
thank you
great.
so much. It has
Well,
been
thank
an
you. It's been
absolute
so fun.
pleasure to do
Yes,
this.
lucky us.
I know, exactly. All right. So I'm adding a little addition here. It's the legal stuff. Just so you're aware, nothing in any of these podcasts constitutes actual psychotherapy. Yes, I am a licensed clinical psychologist in the state of Minnesota, but everything here is just educational in nature and is a suggestion of things that you could be doing in your own life to learn how to love the life that you're in instead of waiting for a life that you're dreaming of to come towards you. So just remember, this is not therapy. And if ever you need any resources for mental health, look in my notes and I'll always have a little blurb at the bottom where you can click on a link and get those services for yourself.